Hi and welcome to Creating Cadence, a podcast for life and work in motion. I'm your host, Mich Bondesio, a coach, consultant and entrepreneur, and the founder of Creating Cadence. I'm also the author of The Cadence Effect. I help high achievers working at the frontiers of making impactful change to transform their approach to life, work and business, to avoid burnout and overwork, activate more potential, improve well-being and performance, and experience more joy in our work at a cadence that's more sustainable for us, despite this fast-paced world we live in. This is episode 76, the fifth of season 12, published in March 2025, although the interview today was recorded in late December. In this season, I'm talking to interesting people working both inside and outside of traditional sustainability sectors about more regenerative ways of working and doing business that support people, planet and profit, help us create cadence in our days, and maintain momentum in our work lives. So March is all about spring in the north, but it also happens to be B Corp month, where we get to celebrate businesses as a force for good. So the interview in today's episode is with Celia Gaze, the founder and CEO of the Wellbeing Farm, which is a B Corp certified events venue in Lancashire. Celia is passionate about the work that she and her team do around sustainable events, and we have a lively conversation about legacy, sustainability, and being more conscious in your business. But before we get to this conversation, some updates from me. So now that my B Impact Academy training with Chamber Low Carbon is done, I am now in the process of doing my carbon calculations to ascertain my existing carbon footprint and determine the areas where I can improve. This is just one task of many that I'll be working on in coming months as part of my own B Corp journey, but I'm excited to be at this stage. You may be wondering why any of this is important. Well, many larger-scale businesses, who also may happen to be my potential clients, are now demanding that their suppliers have full transparency and reporting around their Scope 1, 2 and 3 emissions. An example of this is the NHS in the UK that have introduced new stipulations around carbon reporting. In the future, it won't matter whether you supply them with toilet paper, medicines or surgical instruments. You will need to have a green paper trail or they won't engage with you as a supplier. This week is also the last week of my positive intelligence training. I've been participating in this program for the last 6 weeks, and I can honestly say it's been a life changer. It has really simplified how I understand the process of building mental fitness and resilience through positive intelligence practices, with clarity around how deeply our ingrained negative thoughts and emotions can really sabotage our well-being, performance, and relationships. The PQ practices that we've learnt about and engaged in as part of this program are exercises that I'll be using in every part of my life and work going forward. The other exciting thing that happened last week is that I got to attend the Convention of the North, which is an annual conference bringing businesses, academics and political leaders together to consider challenges and opportunities in the north of England. This year it was held in Preston at Lancashire County Council and the University of Lancashire, previously known as UCLan or the University of Central Lancashire. So the Convention of the North was an opportunity to learn from some amazing leaders in their field about the policy priorities for the North. This included debates with several northern mayors and a speech and Q&A with the Deputy Prime Minister of the UK, Angela Rayner. Not to get too technical, but in terms of policy that is going to come into play in relation to the North, there are currently 6 pan-Northern delivery priorities, which include healthy work, innovation, place and culture, net zero, transport, and trade and investment. The work that I do around intentional productivity and flexible working is all about creating healthy work practices and environments. So the fact that healthy work has been identified as of foundational importance in that it is deemed to fit both within each of the 5 other priority areas and it also spans across them is really encouraging to see. Nature and sustainability were also big discussion topics during the course of the various sessions for the Convention of the North, and I was really excited to hear about a new initiative called Nature North, which is focused on driving nature recovery, delivering climate resilience and green growth in the North, with the aim of cultivating the UK's first nature-positive regional economy. So on this topic of being green, let's get on to today's interview with Celia Gaze. Celia Gaze is the founder and CEO of the Wellbeing Farm, a unique wedding and events venue in Lancashire, UK, that combines sustainability and wellbeing principles. With a background in NHS management, Celia transitioned from a high-pressure career to pursue her passion for creating a space that fosters joy, creativity, and a unique experience. Under her leadership, the Wellbeing Farm has gained numerous awards, including becoming one of the first independent venues in the world to become B Corp certified. And Celia also founded B Corp Fest, held on World Environment Day each year. In 2024, Celia partnered with the charity One Woman at a Time and has found her purpose in supporting and educating women in Kenya around female genital mutilation. In 2020, Celia's story of transforming the farm was also published in a book called Why Put a Bow Tie on a Llama? As you'll hear, Celia is enthusiastic about the worlds of sustainability and social impact. We also get to hear about the charities she's involved in and her thoughts around being a more conscious business owner. And you'll also find out a bit more about what llamas have to do with it all. At the end of the episode, I also share a bit more about some upcoming events that are being held at the Wellbeing Farm, and all the links to those are shared in the show notes too. So if you're ready, let's dive into this conversation with Celia Gaze. So welcome to the Creating Cadence Podcast, Celia.
Thank you. Lovely to see you.
Lovely to see you too. So before we dive into questions, some context for my listeners. I first met you in June 2024 when I attended the B Corp Festival at the Wellbeing Farm in Lancashire. It was such a beautiful, interesting event and so inspiring for me talking with B Corp business owners and others like myself that were interested to learn more about this way of doing business. Because going B Corp for me has been on my wish list for a really long time. And that experience at your event really sparked my desire to finally start on my own long journey towards certification. Now, since then, you've spent some time in Africa as part of the charity work that you're connected to, and we will speak about that a bit later. And you've also recently joined me and others as one of the entrepreneurs in residence at the University of Central Lancashire's Business School.
Yeah.
So, Celia, your journey has been an interesting one so far, and we will explore it a bit. But let's start with the current context. Where do you find yourself in your life and work at this moment?
Right. Well, so I'm now still sort of chief executive of the Wellbeing Farm, having just left my business for over a month to go to Africa. And I went to Marrakesh in Africa and Kenya. I've returned and my business has had the best ever sales and has run the entire month. Well, more, 6 weeks, 7 weeks without me even being there, including lots of weddings and events and Christmas parties. It's December for corporate, very, very busy time for a party venue or wedding venue. And so I'm now like, have I achieved the entrepreneur's dream or is it all too good to be true? Which we'll soon find out.
Fair enough. So one of the 4 pillars of my framework for creating cadence that I use with my clients is about building strong well-being foundations, both inside and outside of work, so that we can be more resilient and sustain over the long haul with less chance of being affected by things like burnout. That does include things like taking regular breaks and creating space, which it sounds like you've managed to do over the last 6 weeks or so. You mentioned in your bio that you left a high-pressure career to start the Wellbeing Farm. In part, I'm presuming because you wanted to find or build a better quality of work life for yourself. But life is always full of ups and downs, and we're never entirely get rid of those stresses and strains that are caused by our modern work practices. So as part of your world now, what regular or daily routines, rituals, hobbies, or habits do you find help to support your well-being and performance better? And what challenges do you experience in maintaining those foundations?
Right. Okay. So I live in the countryside, not too far from the farm. So I'm so lucky to be surrounded by gorgeous walks. And in particular, we have reservoir just literally around the corner. So being able to walk across that reservoir with my dogs is, for me, one of the most loveliest points of my day. And I make the point of doing that really sort of probably first thing in the morning, about 7:30. And it's either that or walk through the woods that, again, are quite near. So love nature, being in nature, walking. I'm an avid reader. I love reading, devour books, which allows me to switch off. I also love doing gratitude lists, journaling, meditation, and all the things really that you would expect that, sort of a busy entrepreneur would do to maintain their own well-being.
Fantastic. That's a lovely variety of things that you do. And the nature connection's obviously strong for you as well because of the B Corp element. So let's talk a little bit more about your career journey so far and that shift towards supporting more sustainable business practices and doing more meaningful, impactful work. What prompted the shift to go B Corp? Did that start right at the beginning of when you started the Wellbeing Farm? And tell us also how that has now led to your recent trip to Kenya and the reason behind that.
Right. So, I mean, I suppose I was always quite frustrated that I didn't find out about B Corp until some way down my journey in creating a wellbeing farm.
Mm-hmm.
I'd started this farm because of an initial lack of gas. I needed to be sustainable. I needed to find solutions to powering the farm initially. You remember what I had to do eventually, for those of you who maybe not know the story, is that I obtained a rundown farm and set to transform this farm from nothing into this corporate events venue. And because there was no electricity at the farm, or no gas at the time, it allowed me to explore all the different options around sustainability and to build a venue from scratch. Now, you've got to remember, this was like 14 years ago when sustainability wasn't really talked about. So because the location of the farm, 800 feet above sea level, I started looking at all options, and the wind turbine for me was the best solution. So I went about installing a wind turbine, and as a result, that became a beacon above the farm. Like a wind turbine is almost the ultimate symbol of sustainability. So I thought, well, everything from that wind turbine downwards has to be sustainable. So we set across this whole way of operating through sustainability, through installing water treatment plants, so many different ways of recycling, food waste recycling, and all the rest of it. So initially I knew nothing. We were gold. We went straight into gold level of the green tourism scheme. And I hadn't really sought other certifications at that point. It was when, during COVID, actually, so you imagine during 2020, the Eat Out to Help Out scheme was introduced by the government as an initiative to help the hospitality businesses get back on their feet after COVID. Now, one of the problems I had was that I was a wedding venue, which at the time could only have 15 people. So it was very, very restrictive. 15 people in a venue that would hold 250 would have just been ridiculous and wasn't worth bringing all my staff back from furlough to just do 15 people at a wedding.
Yeah.
And so I was frantically looking at how I could open up to do more outside work. And the problem I had is that we're 800 feet above sea level. The wind turbine does very good. In a climate where the wind's there, there's no way you could sit outside with Lancashire weather. So I, through my research, came across Brewdog had just announced they were a B Corp. And I was sort of, what on earth's a B Corp? Well, I became transfixed because I'd had a career in the NHS, at which I'd left through burnout to start a business. And I was very disillusioned with business because is that all you do? You just make a profit? Surely there must be more to running a business than just purely making a profit. So it was almost that when I came across the B Corp concept and this principle that through your business, you could do great for the planet, for the community, for your staff. It was almost the movement and the thing I'd been searching for. And I became totally obsessed with this B Corp concept. And I became obsessed with legacy and wanting to do something special. And it was almost that this B Corp almost sort of found me. And I said, look, if any good is going to come from this COVID situation, I am going to leave and finish COVID becoming a B Corp. And I'm going to become one of the first B Corps in the country in the hospitality area. So I literally had time on my hands. I had the resource. And this is the thing with the B Corp. It takes a lot of time. There's a lot of digging around, there's a lot of creativity. You've got to have the policies, the resources, the evidence. Well, I had all of this. So during the time I set out to become B Corp certified, and when the world reopened up, I was able to submit my B Corp application straight away. And because they didn't have many hospitality venues, and because I'd almost done everything, my application was submitted quite quickly and went through the whole process quite quickly. And by the March 22, I had become a B Corp. It might sound a long time between, but I only discovered the B Corp around October 20.
Mm-hmm.
And then, the time it took to get everything together and to go through all the different sort of checks and balances to become the B Corp. So it took about sort of from finding it to becoming a B Corp about 18 months in total.
Well, I think that's kind of standard, isn't it? That is
Yeah.
the typical journey because of all of, as you say, the checks and balances that need to be met.
Yes.
And then, so what made you decide to do the B Corp Fest specifically?
Because I became very much wanting to realise that Lancashire was lagging behind other areas in terms of B Corp take-up. And it was when I went to a representative business group who I said, "Are you doing anything about B Corp?" And the woman said, "Why are you talking about your breast size?" And I said, "What on earth are you talking about? It's B Corp." I said, "It's B Corp." And I cannot believe that this body which represents business did not know anything about B Corp. And so I said, well, I'm going to change that. And I contacted B Corp themselves and I said, could I put an event on to raise awareness in Lancashire? Because I see the take-up rates are very low. And when the business organisation, I don't want to mention it in case I get into trouble, is not even talking about this, I need to be able to do something. And the B Lab UK agreed, and they helped me promote the event. And we're now going into our the fourth year that it's going to be held.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Very exciting. And at that event that I went to in June, you mentioned about this charity that you were getting involved with, if you hadn't already been involved with them, and that you had this trip planned. So talk a little bit more about how that's come about and what it means for you.
Yeah, so as part of the B Corp process, you have to, when you become a certified B Corp, you have to do year-on-year improvements and you have to produce an impact report. Now, through the process and all throughout my history of running the business, I'd always donated to charities. But because of B Corp, my level of donation starting to increase. And I was giving, it wasn't thousands, but I was giving 500 here, there, and to different charities.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't even get a thank you. And I was going, for a small business to suddenly donate £500 is quite a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so for the fact that I wouldn't have minded donating more if I'd have got a thank you, but I was sort of, did they not even know that I'd donated this money? And I wasn't wanting a big sort of certificate, but at least an email saying thank you would have been nice. And really, I know that there's some big charities around, and would £500 really make a big dent in a big charity? And it doesn't.
Mm.
And I'm not saying that charities don't need money at all, because every charity needs the money it needs. But I wanted to make a big difference, and I was all about making a legacy with my business, through my business. And it was through various circumstances that I happened to come across this charity, which was called One Woman at a Time. And the charity is based on empowering women in Kenya, empowering girls through education and through economic improvement. So helping them seek work, helping them be educated, and helping them improve their sort of social status in Kenya, because, it's a very challenging country to live in if you're a female.
Mm-hmm.
And I met the owner of the charity, the founder of the charity, who at the time was 74 years old. And I was amazed at what this lady, Jean Anderson, had achieved through her charity. And through a very small donation, I could fund several girls through donating that sort of money. But also, more importantly, not only do I donate, but I get the stories of the girls, I get the photograph of the girl, and I can follow the person's journey and see for myself that the money I donate will go to make a huge difference. Mm. And I became so excited through this charity. I absolutely loved and believed in what they were doing, to the extent that I thought, well, actually, I'm getting really in with this charity. I became the chairman of the charity because Jean desperately needed help. And before I went too far down the line, I'm going to be really honest, I thought I better do some due diligence of the charity to make sure that all the money that is raised does go directly to help the girls in Kenya. Because sometimes you hear about some corruption in Kenya, and I needed to make sure that everything was legit. And like most charities, I thought my reputation, I've grown the farm to such a reputation, I wouldn't want anything to harm that.
Yeah.
So I ended up this November going to Kenya with Jean to travel, and we arrived and we literally spent nearly 3 weeks touring lots of the schools, and we went to the hospitals, and we went to around the prisons and to see the conditions of these girls, to meet with the girls, to interview the girls, to see where they live, to speak to the teachers, speak to the medical staff, everything. And I came away having attended the graduation ceremony where 160 girls had been saved from female genital mutilation through education. It was, for me, incredible. And I've come back with an even more resilience to help the charity, to do more for the charity. And sometimes you don't quite know what you're getting involved with something. And it's best to do your own due diligence, because that's part of the B Corp, is really making sure, checking your suppliers, checking everyone you work for has the same level of authenticity and values that you have within your business. And so I just treated the charity as another supplier. Like I'd check all my other suppliers. I wanted to make sure that this charity was having the same values.
Wow. And I've seen several of your LinkedIn posts since your return. The stories that you shared, really earth-shattering in some respects and amazing in others. And, you're doing a great job. And I think that they are lucky to have you as a spokesperson for them as well, to help amplify things.
Well, thank you very much.
So a term linked to sustainable business, which is what you're doing with the Wellbeing Farm and with the charitable work you're doing. A term that I use quite a lot in the work that I do is this idea of triple bottom line: people, planet, and profit. It's interlinked with other concepts around this type of business, like net zero and the circular economy, regenerative business, etc. But I think that it's quite a succinct way, an effective way of explaining the power of this type of business. From your perspective, why do you think this idea of the triple bottom line is so important for building more sustainable, future-proof businesses, particularly now in our current social and economic landscape?
Well, I think there's so much sort of distrust around from organisations everywhere. And I think it's a really good way of having a business that's really clear. I mean, I love the fact that you can have that impact report, that you don't just say you're sustainable, that you actually have to prove it through evidence. There's a lot of accreditations out there, and a lot of people say, oh, we're green, or we're sustainable, or we're doing good. But actually, the point with enough money, you can get some of these certifications. And the thing about what I loved about the B Corp is that you could not buy it. You might, so many things, if you throw enough money, or if you have the right conversations, or if you kind of, there's ways of getting these things, isn't there? Let's be honest. And there is absolutely no way that you will get to become a B Corp without this really rigorous scrutiny of your policies and your processes and your evidence and everything, which is what I really liked about the B Corp. And then going back, in a world where global warming is becoming more and more, we're seeing it every single day on the news. We're seeing all sorts of weather catastrophes. I am on a farm. The seasons have gone. Absolutely. We have no idea. We used to know when spring, summer, winter, autumn was coming. They've all got messed up, everything. And it's very, very challenging for farming. And so having a business that really puts the people at the center, the staff are the most important thing, especially in a business like hospitality. Your staff are everything. And I'd become previously an ambassador of the Burnt Chef project, which was around mental health and hospitality. I'd heard some of the stories about chefs and hospitality staff doing split shifts and all hours, very challenging. And to have this focus on really putting the staff well-being at the heart of your business, not just as sort of giving them money, but really looking at the working conditions, looking how they operate, looking at what you can put in place. So important. And then again, having every business, net zero targets or not, the planet's dying and we've all got a part to play. And going back to that legacy piece, I didn't want my grandchildren or great-grandchildren coming to me and going, what did you do when you knew the planet was dying? And I want to have a clear conscience. I wanted to be doing something. And this is all about having that legacy. And for me, I've said before that the profit was never a big drive for me. I could not go from an NHS organisation of 14 years to go back and just into a purely profit maximisation business. It just was not in my values. It just wasn't the way I operated. I didn't want to run a business. I mean, if I was that inclined, I could have opened several wellbeing farms by now, but I never wanted to do that. I wanted to create something really special, something really unique, and something which really puts purpose over the profit above and beyond anything else.
I love that. That legacy piece is so, so important. And that's where that level of accountability comes into play as well that you mentioned. You know, the B Corp certification enables you to have that level of accountability, but it's also about being accountable for this future generation. We all have a part to play. Now, the concept of creating cadence that I use is about finding ways to move forward, to build momentum, to help us create more flexible rhythm and flow in the various parts of our life and work in a way that creates deeper meaning, but it can also help us sustain over the long haul. And if we think about the Wellbeing Farm, how does what you do there help your clients to build more momentum or to create a more supportive rhythm or flow in their lives or business in a way that's more impactful or meaningful?
Well, I think, we've got three distinct audiences, really. We've got the couples who are coming to get married, and we're attracting a more conscious couple. Weddings are very wasteful and is a very much use once, throw away. Everything is for the one day. So we do encourage the couples to come and look at their whole wedding journey. We encourage, we created the concept of a prop shed where couples would donate the items used in their wedding, particularly decoration, decor. And then after the wedding, they'd donate it into a prop shed. And then the next couple will come along and reuse some of that. And then the next couple. And this prop shed's gone from a few items to a huge big, well, it was a huge, but it's a lot of things in.
Yeah.
And that has reduced waste. It's created a sort of mini circular economy in motion that more and more people do that. It's created more conscious couples. We don't encourage things like, the balloons, the favors. We don't really plastic favors, sort of certain confetti, things like that. We're very much around, we have a sustainable wedding package, and the couples, if they adopt some of the principles in that, they can have some free drinks or some more incentive towards their wedding. And then that kind of thing goes right through parties and corporate events as well. We have green wedding packages, green party packages, green corporate packages. We encourage and have sections on our website which tell people all about how they can make their wedding or party or corporate event more green. We encourage partnerships. We have a partnership with a coach company, for example, so everybody doesn't travel. We kind of recycle all our food waste is collected and turned into biogas. We have umpteen loads of different sustainable initiatives on the farm, and we hope that people will learn from us. I love the fact that the parents of the staff who work for me often come and pick the child up, because some of the staff are like 16, 17, and they go, oh my goodness, sort of Simon's driving me mad because since working at the farm, he's got us recycling and he's becoming like a policeman when it comes to waste. And I love the fact that the staff get very involved. We have a green team. They're constantly giving me ideas on what else we could do. And then we've started looking at more sort of events. So, for example, we do Pride in Your Wedding, which is a wedding fair specifically for the gay and lesbian community because nobody was really doing much for that community. We do, obviously, the B Corp Fest to try and get companies to become more sustainable and work towards their sort of B Corp certification. And we have Christmas fairs on Small Business Saturday. And the Christmas fair is all about ethical and sustainable traders. So, Christmas gifts, which are, less throwaway and more sort of handmade, homemade sort of things. We do a love fest around Valentine's Day, which is all about self-love. So instead of being love around the couple, we focus on the love for yourself.
Oh, that's brilliant.
And all that. And I mean, for a wedding venue, very unusual to do that, but we feel it's important to focus on that. And the team is constantly looking at kind of what other things can we do to enable our customers to become almost as conscious in a way as we are. And I mean, we do attract other B Corps as well to come. And I think we're one of the few certified venues in the Northwest. So that, for example, has been a really good differentiator of our business. I used to think we had bow tie wearing llamas.
Yes.
And I used to think it was the llamas that attracted the farm, but it's really been taken over by a mixture of this well-being, sustainability and fun, to be honest, and putting those as almost like underpinning the whole package. And hopefully that they will go and learn something from that and take some of the practices home for their own businesses and, having a more conscious party or celebration.
Oh, I love all of that. That's so fantastic. And I love that your team are so invested and involved in things as well. And that adds to the idea of the legacy that you're building, because it's not just about you and your outcome, but it's about everybody who's participating.
Yeah. And I think one of the big things about a B Corp is that, for example, you're supposed to be open and transparent with everybody. So many businesses keep the profit margins to themselves. So many company owners, the profits and the levels of profit are hidden away. And the thing with the B Corp is that there's only so much that the chief executive can go for the lowest paid worker. And my team, at the start of the year, they will set my budget. They have full transparency in every single thing, and they will tell me how much profit I'm going to make. Because you still have to make profit to be able to do the charitable work, to be able to do the legacy, to be able to do the charitable events. So profit isn't a dirty word at all.
Yeah.
But the point is, it's very much driven as a bottom-up approach of an almost equality approach. And I think this really helps when I can almost go away having set it up with these values and have the team so passionate about it because they know exactly what they've got to deliver.
Fantastic. All right, Celia. So final question for you. Based on your experience of life and work so far, what words of advice or key lessons would you like to share with my listeners?
Well, I think, I made so many mistakes. I ended up writing a book because I made so many mistakes. And I thought people have got to learn from the mistakes I made because I can't not do this and people not learn from them. I think one of my I was nearly bankrupt during setting up my business, and I came across the Profit First book and I now have several bank accounts to manage my finances because, at the end of the day, all of this sustainable and all of this B Corp is amazing and I love it. But I always remember the Jamie Olivers. Now, the story of Jamie Oliver when he had Jamie's restaurants and he had all of this. And he went off to save school meals on the planet and, with the government. And he was there advising school visits and school meals. And he kept saying to his team, is everything all right? And the team would go, yeah, Jamie, don't worry, just carry on with your school meals with the government. And he took the eye off the ball, off his business, because it is exciting. It's fantastic. It's so exciting for me to go to Kenya. So exciting for me to do all this. But at the end of the day, you have also got to run your business. So you must have a really good scorecard that you're seeing as the dials of a business. You cannot forget the sales. You cannot forget the revenue, the profit, the staff, the spending. And as long as you have this really clear scoreboard, which is visible and shared, and you are looking at it all the time, then you can go and have a business that makes legacy. You can have a business that is a force for good. But for heaven's sake, don't take your eye off the ball, because otherwise you will not be left with your business. And nobody wants what happened, sadly, to Jamie Oliver, because he had to lose all his restaurants.
Yeah, he expanded so fast and then unfortunately lost all of that.
Yeah.
And that's very sound advice, Celia. Yes, the triple bottom line includes the profit. It isn't a dirty word. You need to be able to make money and keep it and save it as part of running a business.
100%.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So where can people find you online, Celia? And do you have anything interesting coming up that you want to share?
Yeah, so the Wellbeing Farm is obviously online, and I think the links might be in.
I'll share the links, yes.
We've got the Wellbeing Farm website where we have a whole section on sustainability within that website as well. I also have a private website for me because I do a lot of talking and a lot of sort of sharing my story around. That's celiagaze.com. And then we've also got the charity, which is One Woman at a Time. And have a look, because sometimes finding a charity that you can make such a big difference is quite a rarity sometimes. And so I love that. And then the thing that's, and I've also got a book. The book is, that's called Why Put a Bow Tie on a Llama? Because it was when I put a bow tie on a llama, it transformed my entire business and it stood out. So that's why. And then if you're interested in this area around B Corp and you're in the Northwest, the B Corp Fest is always held every year on World Environment Day, which is the 5th of June. And where else is a better day to take a day off to just focus on the planet, focus on your contribution of a business to sustainability. And it's not just sustainability, it's for your staff and it's also for your community as well. Mm-hmm. And so the B Corp Fest is, again, 5th of June. And it'd be great to see any of your listeners there.
Absolutely. And I highly recommend it, having experienced it myself. And we'll share the links to all of those places online in the show notes. Celia, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed chatting with you. It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you so much, Miss. Thank you.
I love Celia's passion for her subject matter. And if you ever get to meet her in person, you'll quickly realize that she is a force to be reckoned with. During this conversation, Celia raised important points about creating a business that's focused on purpose and building a legacy for the future, not just being driven by profit maximization. In terms of legacy, this isn't an ego thing. We have to be aware of what we're leaving behind for the next generation, because they're going to have to deal with the good or the bad ramifications of our current actions. An example of this is a company that Celia actually referenced during our conversation. Celia mentioned that during the pandemic, she had discovered a company who had become B Corp certified. That company has actually had their certification removed because it was discovered that they were engaging in less than favorable practices that were impacting their staff and their business in an adverse way. So this is an example of the bad ramifications of our current actions that can have an impact on our future and the future of our business and our workers. It also confirms why something like B Corp certification can be really important for creating trust with your audience, your customers, your stakeholders. Because when you have to be fully transparent in various parts of your business practice, when you have to be reporting, producing a sustainability report every year, there's no hiding. You have to be truthful, you have to be honest, and you have to be fair in the way you run your business. And this is going to become even more important in our future of work with the extra volatility and uncertainty that we face. Finally, as I mentioned at the start, there are a couple of things coming up at the Wellbeing Farm that might be of interest if you're local to Lancashire. The first is a new National Awareness Day that Celia is launching called Conscious Day. While mindfulness towards the environment should be a daily habit, we know that life gets busy. So the purpose of Conscious Day is to dedicate a day to reconnecting with nature and our impact on the world. To launch the Conscious Day initiative, on the 13th of March, Celia is hosting a llama net walk and breakfast at the Wellbeing Farm. This is the perfect opportunity to join together and spark important forward-thinking conversations. The second event to be aware of is the B Corp Fest, which takes place at the Wellbeing Farm on World Environment Day, which is the 5th of June. B Corp Fest is a relaxed business festival where you can learn from and mingle with like-minded people, meet amazing speakers, and explore what B Corp truly means. I attended last year and I highly recommend it, and the links to both of those events are in the show notes. So I wish a happy B Corp month to those of you who are already B Corps or on this journey like me. I'll be back soon with the finale for this season, which is an illuminating conversation with the inspiring Mark Shaler, who is an author, speaker, consultant, and environmental expert. So thanks for listening. A few last things before you go. If you like the show, please share the love by rating it where you listen to it and telling all of your friends. You can find out more about what I do at creatingcadence.co, and you can buy my book at thecadenceeffect.com. If you're interested in being a sponsor for the podcast and you have a product or service that aligns with the ethos of creating cadence, intentional productivity, or flexible, sustainable working practices, then drop us a line at hello@creatingcadence.co. The podcast is hosted on Acast and available wherever you listen to your pods. It's edited on Descript, auto-posted to YouTube with Headliner, and the current groovy podcast music track is 184 by Skittle from Blue Dot Sessions. Until next time, keep moving forwards with courage, curiosity, and cadence. Bye for now.